Over in the UK, we are seeing a possible return to wartime rationing when it comes to gas. That's how perilous the supply issues are becoming over there. But here in Australia, we're heading for our own gas crisis, despite the fact that we are sitting on decades, if not centuries, of reserves. The Australian Energy Regulator has warned that gas shortages loom, seeking to hike energy bill caps by up to 31%. Joining me now is economist Judith Sloan. Judith, thank you for your time. How did we get here when we have so much untapped gas in Australia beneath our feet?
Well, I think we got here, Rita, through years of stupidity, really. Particularly here in Victoria, but also to a fair degree in New South Wales. I mean, Queensland, to give them their due, allowed exploration, allowed coal seam gas to be extracted, and out of that came a terrific export industry. But I think, for example, to have Dan Andrews banging on about how disgraceful it is for the gas to be exported out of Queensland shows incredible hypocrisy, because he basically has created a ban on gas, both exploration at the conventional and, of course, at the the seam level for decades. I mean, some of it's in the Constitution, which is extraordinary.
And largely supported by the Liberal opposition, though how much of an opposition they are is up for debate. The government and many in industry also...
If you want to get picky about it, it was the Liberals who initiated the ban on coal seam gas being extracted, I don't know, way back when, a couple of decades ago, because they wanted to keep the National Party vote down in Gippsland. So, yes, that's where it all started. But one has to say that Andrews and Lily D'Ambrosio, they have embraced it significantly, because it is the anti-gas theme is something that's very strong with the Greens and also with inner city voters generally.
Yes, they want to get rid of gas cookers out of every kitchen. I mean, the policies are that micro. And we do have governments, state and federal, keep telling us this, I would call it a lie, but let's call it a notion, that renewable energy is the cheapest option available. But as far as you know, has that been the experience anywhere in the world where prices have plummeted because they've gone further into renewables?
Well, it's a terrific question to ask a Chris Bowen, for example, to name a country or a region of a country where the expansion of renewable energy has led to low electricity prices. I know the answer, but I wish someone would ask him. It's you have to read the tea leaves, Rita. They are actually pedalling back fast, Bowen and Albo. They're now singing the praises of gas. They're singing the praises of gas as a transition fuel. AEMO, who is really such a politicised body, which is terrible, because it's, after all, the Australian energy market operator. I mean, do we really expect a body like that to be politicised? You know, last year, or certainly 18 months ago, they were saying, oh, no, not a problem now with gas. And now they're really putting out some quite frightening predictions, close-in predictions, you know, this coming winter and the like. So they're changing their tune too. One fears that, you know, reality is sort of slapping some of these people in the face, but it's going to be difficult, because don't forget Liddell, which is one of the bigger coal-fired power plants in New South Wales, is going to close next month, so in total, and so it could be quite a tight winter.
Absolutely. Now, this U-turn you speak about, the Albanese government, how is that going to be received by their Greens? Because they are in this unofficial coalition government, and the Greens seem to have quite a say on how they go about governing. How are they going to handle that U-turn?
Well, it's a trade-off, isn't it? Because, I mean, at the moment, as you mentioned in your introduction, that consumers are facing increased electricity prices of between about 25%. They're over 30% here in Victoria. And all this sort of talk about, oh, well, it could have been more. People don't understand that point. They're just going to look at the bottom figure of their electricity bill and be fairly appalled. So the government understand the politics of that, and the government also understand the politics of blackouts, brownouts, unreliable power. So they really have to get out both their hands and think, on the one hand, they probably do have to appease the Greens and the inner city voters to a degree, but at the same time they are very worried about electricity prices and reliability issues.
And just finally, the AUKUS deal this week has put the nuclear energy question back in the debate. But how likely are we to see an Albanese government soften their approach to nuclear energy now that they've signed up to nuclear-powered submarines?
Well, I think very little, although they are going to have to change various pieces of law to allow nuclear submarines, and that may just by chance help the more general promotion of a nuclear industry in this country. So we should watch that space. But I think it's a long road. I think there are some really interesting developments happening overseas with small nuclear reactors. And so we'll be able to watch that space. So the timelines of that are not nearly as long as was traditional nuclear power. And of course, Britain and France in particular are now, they're doing their own U-turn, and they're actually trying to reinvigorate their nuclear industries very rapidly, having let them, I think, languish for quite some time.
It will be fascinating to see what happens in Europe, because you're right, you've got Britain, you've got France, you've got Sweden, and they are heavily reliant on nuclear power. We've got plenty to learn from them. Judith Sloan, thank you so much for joining me tonight.